When I was 12 years old, I told myself, when I'm older, I want to become an animator. I'm 22 now and I can kind of animate, but you see, for the last 4 years, I've also told myself that I'll wait until my drawings are actually good before I really start animating. But now that I'm not a kid anymore, it's starting to dawn on me that if I don't screw my nuts and go all in on animating, I'm most likely going to lead a terrible, purposeless existence, selling my soul to a 9-to-5 minimum wage job, making another man rich. And quite honestly, I'd rather sell my soul to Mappa. The pre-internet 2009 Kathmandu suffered from load shedding, which meant the electricity would go off every day at a scheduled time. So 7-year-old me would suddenly be left in complete silence at the middle of a Ben 10 episode, with only my imagination to figure out how Ben was going to send those damn aliens back to where they came from. So when I moved to the UK in 2012 and suddenly had unlimited access to the internet, I distinctly remember searching up how to make cartoons. This is how I found Draw with Jazza, and it was through his channel that I understood 2D animation specifically was drawn frame by frame. And if I had the access to an animation software and a drawing tablet, then I too could create cartoons. Jazza would very frequently reference the Bible of animation as being the animator's survival kit by the legendary animator Richard Williams. Principles and the information outlined in this book is the basis on which my animation study is going to be built upon. I'm going to go over all the principles throughout this series, but for this episode, let's go over the first 3, which in my opinion are the most important ones. It occurred to me very early on that the one thing differentiating my favorite animators from others was not necessarily their animation skills, but rather the level of draftsmanship. In fact, the Animator Survival Kit emphasizes the importance of drawing in the very first few pages.
If I were starting over again, the first thing I'd do would be to make a thorough study of draftsmanship. I would learn perspective, then the human figure, both nude and clothed, and surround it with proper setting.
WebGen animators are a very good example because a lot of them get their start animating stick figures, and so when they decide to start animating human figures, their animations move fluidly, but the drawings, whilst having a very individual quality, can sometimes look odd. Weilin Zhang is one of these animators who showcased an amazing potential with his animated piece Shine Time. But it was only when he introduced solid drawing principles that his work was truly able to shine at a professional level. So this is why, on top of learning the principles of animation, I'm also going to be separately learning the fundamentals of drawing and painting. Spacing and timing, from my experience, is the most important principle when it actually comes to animating a drawing. It was when I understood this principle that I went, oh, so that's how you make the movement feel real. In order to understand the relationship between spacing and timing, I studied the bouncing ball exercise, which also taught me the squash and stretch principle. This principle is pretty simple. Things tend to squash and stretch whilst maintaining their overall volume. This principle also helps you communicate the density of an object. For example, a water balloon would have a lot more squash and stretch compared to a bowling ball. I also did the spinning ball, hammer, pendulum, and a plethora of other exercises before I actually got a hang of squash, stretch, and spacing and timing. After that, I used video reference to study how these principles work in real life by pausing a video reference and going frame by frame with the comma and full stop keys on YouTube. Because I already had an okay grasp of drawing, when I learned these principles, I could already animate from imagination at a very basic level, which made things a lot more fun for me. I use Clip Studio Paint X, which is what a lot of digital animators use in the animation industry in Japan, but before Clip Studio, I used to use Krita, which is completely and utterly free. So you don't have any excuses, my boy. So the goal is to eventually get professional work. Obviously I love anime, so man's gonna be animating in that style. Some of my favorite animators include the likes of Tetsuya Nishio, Spencer One, and of course, Waylon Zan. So I'll also be studying these great animators using the website Sakugaboru. Whilst I do find action animation and those Sakuga montages really cool, I think what's piqued my interest recently is the ability to animate very subtle character acting. But I'm also very interested in action animation, storyboarding, and the whole pipeline because, well, eventually I do want to create my own animated films. Let's see what happens. I stopped drawing when I was 14 after I got addicted to League of Legends, and it was only 4 years later when teachers wanted me to apply to university that I picked up the pencil again. And with the skills of my 13-year-old self, I thought, oh yeah, I could kind of draw when I was 13, so maybe I can become an animator. So I patched together this really bad portfolio and I applied to university and I got accepted. But not really, because my uni year started in late 2020, which meant it was in the middle of the pandemic. So 3 months later, I just ended up dropping out because I didn't want to go into debt for Zoom University when I knew there was better education available online. This was a pretty low time in my life. You can imagine I'm officially this 19-year-old university dropout. I'm fat, I don't like the way I look, my mom's yelling at me because I'm a bum. Yet, for some reason, I still have this naive sense of hope and ambition that despite all my flaws, I can still become great. And so I struggled on. I started to improve myself. I built a decent physique, and most importantly, my art wasn't as bad anymore. This was also around the time when I started making some YouTube videos which actually won some competitions. I earned $9,000 on the internet. This was a lot of money for me at the time, which meant I desired more. Influenced by the dreams of making internet money, I strayed away from the path of an artist. And whilst I did learn a few things, each step away felt more and more inauthentic to myself. I wasted a lot of time being stagnant, so if you can't tell, I'm in a rush. I don't have that naive sense of confidence I used to have when I was 19, but I still have the ego of a third world immigrant who hates the idea of living an average first world life. The harsh reality is that most people don't make it despite having a positive attitude because of a million adversities that come their way. A lack of money, a lack of time, a lack of self-belief, but most importantly, a lack of action. The only thing I have going for me is that I'm stubborn and selfish. I'm willing to sacrifice everything in order to pursue what is meaningful to me. But I also have the tendency of not putting in the work, the ultimate sacrifice. An ambition without work, it's just illusion. It's come to the point now that this is the first time in my life I've actually thought about quitting. You know, maybe I'll just stop this meaningless pursuit for my ambitions and maybe just take it slow. Choose the comfortable, tried and tested path, because maybe I'm just not that guy. But then you remember you told yourself you're gonna do the hard work even if it kills you, because you got a chip on your shoulder. An average life is not gonna justify all the suffering I've been through, man. I need to work hard. Well, if that's the case, this is what hard feels like. So I'm gonna document my artistic journey here on YouTube with the hopes of being as transparent as I can, sharing my trials and tribulations in hopes to inspire and guide my younger self. And of course, earn some money to support myself in the path of an artist. Thanks for watching. My name's Shaq, aka Swadox, and I'm out.